Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael Bull. Today we're talking about the office market. We're covering forecast, design, and strategies. Please welcome my next guest. It's Haril Pandya. He is an architect. He's principal of CBT Architects. They're headquartered in Boston. He's director of asset strategy and repositioning. Haril, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Haril, right? Say it right.
Yeah, Haril. Yep,
Haril. Well, you are in charge of asset strategies. You're in charge of repositioning. And repositioning office buildings seems like a great subject today. I mean, there's a lot of older office buildings around the country that may be ripe for repositioning. Do you think it's a good time right now at this point in the cycle?
This is a great market, and a great time to be looking at repositioning buildings. We're fortunate enough to be in Boston, where there's a lot of great old buildings, and there's a lot of real estate developers and owners that want to come into that market because it is a good time to buy that type of asset and really put a lot of value add into it. So, downtown, suburban, all these buildings that are sort of in the area that have been aging over the years, actually, it's pretty ripe to, as you said, to kind of get in there and give it a refresh, a rebrand, and reposition in the market.
What might we look for as a good repositioning opportunity?
Well, I think as these office buildings tend to trade hands between one owner and another, I think it's just it's the classic real estate game of trying to buy in low and kind of sell the thing high. And I think we tend to find buildings that are about to either have large leasing vacancies. So if a large tenant with a large amount of square footage is about to leave and they're not going to renew, it creates a vacancy in the building. And the new owners come in and say, well, this building's going to be empty. It's probably a good value to get it. We'll infuse some money into it, and then and then be able to sell high when the time is right. And I think those rules sort of hold true for both downtown and suburban markets.
Okay. And is there any significance or value if you're buying a property to reposition to maybe have some style to the building or some historic nature? And if so, how can you utilize that to power your numbers?
Well, we're storytellers. That's one thing that we really pride ourselves at our office. And the thing we'd like to really dive into deep is to try to find each building's story. And I think, it's in many ways, it's a little formulaic to be able to go in and say, okay, this building needs a lobby refresh, or okay, this building, might need a fitness facility or something like that. And all those things are fine. But for us, we'd like to really extract, a story or a narrative out of the building, whether it's a historic one, whether it's a location-driven one, whether it's, this building happens to house a lot of technology tenants. So, maybe there's a story around that, and really try to personify the building to give it character and then ultimately differentiate it in the marketplace. And I think that's really the key. If you're an asset owner and you own 3 of these things and it's on the technology belt in 128 here in Boston, you got to create a little differentiation. And I think that really comes through really creative storytelling.
Yeah. Well, what about, I understand when you have a nice, pretty older building, right, that's got some style and character, but what if you have a building that was kind of built in, I don't know, the 60s or 70s or something, and it's kind of ugly?
Yeah, well, ugly in the eye of the beholder, I guess. I mean, I think
Right.
some of the stuff that we're seeing in the 60s and 70s is some really great classic architecture, from the nerdist side or my side of it all when I look at it. But I think they all have an opportunity to kind of get a facelift or become more current in the marketplace. Sometimes we forget how good the building was when it was originally done, and trying to bring some of that, lore and character back is really kind of a great way to look at it. Buildings in Boston are notorious to either be brutalist or the tougher ones to look at, but they all have a great character and a story.
Yeah. Well, what are some tips that a developer or investor might look at for building when it comes to maybe the facade or the lobby when they're starting to look at something to reposition? Because you really want that first impression to say, hey, there's something new here, right?
Yeah, you got it absolutely right. I mean, it's just like the car door test, right? I mean, when you shut that car door and it feels good, the rest of the experience feels fantastic, and that really begins with the handles on the doors all the way to the elevators, all the way down the hall and to your desk, and that entire tenant experience or guest experience is critical, and we're making it very akin, or hearing it to be very akin to hospitality in hotels. The same way you sort of come in and arrive and experience it all is very similar in office buildings. We want you to feel like this building belongs to you if you're a lead tenant, or if you're a guest arriving trying to visit someone, going to visit someone. We want that experience to be fantastic. So the lobbies, the facades want to be more energy efficient, and the lobbies want to be a lot more welcoming and almost hospitality-like.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was reading some of from your work, and you were talking about the lobbies being welcoming and making you feel comfortable when you get there, and I think that's a big part of design. And then you talked about security and how do you work the same thing. And we're going to have to take a short break, but when we get back, I want to ask you about something else that you've done where you did a couple office spaces, or maybe you've done a lot of them, and you created areas that were quiet and areas that were work and areas that are social. You don't want to miss this. Stay with us. I'm Michael Bull. This is the Commercial Real Estate Show. We'll be right back. The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you by Bull Realty, Asset and Occupancy Solutions. Xceligent, building data everywhere. Valuate, easily share what-if analysis with colleagues online. And First Service Solutions, your CMBS borrower advocate. For more information on how these businesses may be of service to you, visit creshow.com.